Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm going to summarize Skinner's Chapter 9, Knowing. This is my fifth time attempting on this. So here it goes. It's a short chapter. It basically starts out giving you an example of a baby will cry and sneeze, while a child will learn how to write and walk. These are behavior specified. What it means, and it goes on to talk about what does it mean to process behavior. And the definition they gave of processing is a system system was changed when the behavior was acquired. And then, it goes on that there's kinds of knowing. For example, to know, you will learn how to you know how to open the window, you know how to spell. Then it goes to know about things. That's basically like knowing how to read Latin, knowing how to do algebra. And then it talks about instruction, directions, and rules and laws. A person may know how to operate a piece of equipment because he has read the instruction. That's pretty much basic. Then goes to give you a few examples of Pavlov's dogs, when they saliva, and the rats, when they push a lever, they don't necessarily know that the food will go there. Just they learn that. Like the taxi driver could say they know the city well, but it does not get around because he processes the continent map. So they know certain parts, and that's pretty much what they need to know. And then it goes on to the next section where it talks about, does knowing come from experience? And Log implies that it should, or it has the factors into it. And what I'm gathering from it is basically saying, depending on the environment the person's in, it does affect what they're going to learn or how they're going to learn it, if they want to learn it. Then we go to knowledge as power and context. So this part, it's the first thing that I wrote down is we do not act but put knowledge to use. Our knowledge is action, or at least rules for action. And then it goes on to talk about Albert's behavior is essential to exercise power. It has an effect on the environment. So, and it gives an example of how the West has this, well, they use fetish. This is, for me, it was a strange word. It's on control of nature. And then it talks about how the way we word things does affect how we can perceive the behavior or understands it. Like it says, I went to the meeting knowing that X would be speaking. And it replaces believing, expecting, realizing. So we expect X to be there. Now, if you change to, I went thinking X would be there, it makes it unsure, unclear. And that's something I kind of had like, oh yeah, that makes sense moment. Because I know I use some words that make people unsure what I'm saying when I know what I'm saying. So it also talks about how verbal behavior plays a principal role in it, and how it becomes well adapted to automatic reinforcement. And then we go to understanding. And the way it talks about it, the example is, you do not just repeat whatever someone says. There's control variables that are affecting it, like the time you're going to say it, when you're going to say it, how you're going to say it. And it also goes on with, there's more depth in understanding it. Max obsession and text. So basically, here's like when you read, you're going to reread things, you're going to get more information. When you first time reading it, you're getting general information. Like, the example I think of is when somebody's talking about a girl going to the park. First time, it's just the girl's going to the park. And if I reread it again, I'll get more in detail, like what kind of dress she's wearing, how the weather was, and is it. And then it goes on to say knowledge as a process information. This part, it talks about, the example it gives is basically a telephone line from A to B. The transfer of the information and how that process affects the understanding or knowledge. Because it also talks about speaking and listening and writing and reading. And what I gather is when you make a discussion face to face, you got other factors you could have better understanding, like the way their tone of voice is, the way they carry themselves makes you understand what they're trying to get out. But if you have it in writing, it's kind of hard. Like if you were texting someone and you're arguing, you were like confused if their sarcasm, the tone of voice, there could be misunderstanding. Well, that's what I'm gathering from that part. Then it goes to personal knowledge of the scientist. So here it's summarized basically. As a scientist, you try to memorize your personal influence the best as possible for the research you're doing, if you're reading, testing, all that. And that affects how their day-to-day lives, how they view things, or how they talk to people. The example they give here is like how the warmth is gone. It's like a book, because they want just basically to have you give you straightforward information without any bias. But without the warmth and stuff, people would tend to feel that's cold, distant. And another thing it gives is like, Bridgman gave a quote saying that the most description thing as I see, I must describe things as I see it. To me, I can't get away from myself. Saying that you can't completely get all your bias out on things, and that's also feelings. Now, last part of the chapter talks about isms, basically, and I'll just read the definition of it. The philosophy and moral climates of class consequences and spirits of the time are other intelligent process which falls into the field of knowledge and accounts for some of the large patterns of behavior characteristic of a people, class, a period, and a culture. And it talks about how one ism comes up, there's going to be the opposite of isms. And the example they give is in Roman Empire under Christian rise, what factors contribute to it, and why it became popular. And it last has a question: how much more we should know if the prior consequences have been described rather than feelings and ism gathered by them. What's your opinion on that, on the discussion? I feel that you can't really get, well, my opinion, that feelings are going to be a big impact on knowing. So yeah, that's my open discussion question, the last part of the chapter. And also, what was in the chapter like a oh moment for you? Like, that makes sense, or I didn't think it that way. Okay. Thank you for listening to me.